For 2025, one of our favorite cars on the market gets even better with the addition of a hybrid powertrain option. But if you're going to take your Honda Civic hatchback hybrid out on the highway for big miles, what sort of numbers can you realistically expect going 70 miles per hour? Tonight we're going to find out. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the real-world highway fuel economy test on the 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid Hatchback. In this test, we're going to head out on the highway and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour, to get a realistic fuel economy number for this hybrid hatch. And before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Yes, in this beautiful bright red color, the Honda Civic Hatchback. One of our favorite cars, both in hatch and sedan form. I think people tend to like the hatchback a little bit more, and I can't really blame them, although the sedan gets 2 miles per gallon better on the highway according to EPA, so maybe that's the one to get. Although for me, that very little difference in percentage of estimated fuel economy is worth it to get the hatchback setup. I think it looks a little bit cooler and is slightly more practical. Now, if you want to see more on the Civic Hybrid Hatch, check the link below. We've got a full review, we've got a sound system test on this 8-speaker sound system, and I think we've got a no talking review as well over on Winding Road. And then we've got a lot of coverage on the Civic in general, as when it first came out for this generation, it was a Daily Motor Car of the Year. So you can find all of our coverage linked below. So why do we do this test? Well, the EPA's highway fuel economy test, which gives this hybrid hatch 45 miles per gallon. It's 48 combined, 50 city, and 45 highway. That test only averages 48 miles per hour. And we know there are plenty of people who hop on the highway and do big miles and would like to know what sort of numbers you can realistically expect here in the real world. So in order to test that out, I'm going to head out tonight when there's less traffic. I'm going to do 100 miles, come back to the same pump I started at, fill up using the same 3-click fueling method, and get a result. Now, a few things to note for the test. Outside temperature is going to be about 50 degrees by the time we hit the road tonight. I'm going to set the tire pressures to their door placard PSI. I'll have to open it up and see what it is. You all will see here below. And we're going to run the climate control at 73 degrees auto. All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to head to the gas pump, get this thing filled up, and we're going to get out on the road. We put in 3.567 gallons for our first fill. And before starting the motor, we're going to reset the vehicle's trip computer. Go down here to range and fuel, trip 1, reset. I'm averaging 45 miles per gallon over the last 100 miles here in the Civic Hybrid. We've got our climate control set, 73 auto. Get our GPS reset, even though I did forget to bring the mount, so it's not going to be sitting here in front of us, but we'll at least have the trip followed right there. And we're ready to begin. Engine did come right to life, probably because of our heat. Usually when you start up the Civic Hybrid, it will drive for a little while on electric only, but we need to get some heat going into the motor here for the HVAC, so that might throw off our result just slightly at the very beginning. We do have a few different drive modes here in the Civic. You got Econ, Normal, and Sport. We're going to do this test in Econ. And we're going to take it nice and easy over to the highway. It's about half a mile away, and pick up the test from there. Now, the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not trying to get the best possible fuel economy for the car, but rather a realistic figure. So in order to do that, we're going to get up to highway speed here at a reasonable pace, and I'm going to set the cruise control at a GPS indicated 71 miles per hour, and that should allow us to average 70 over the whole test. Without getting too into the hairy, nitty-gritty details of how the powertrain works in this car, the Honda hybrids are a little more nifty than the hybrid systems in a lot of other competitive vehicles. Essentially, the way they work is it's got 2 electric motors and then the gasoline internal combustion engine. One of the electric motors drives the wheels, and the other one functions as a generator on the engine to essentially take the internal combustion motor and make more electricity to put it into the battery. Now, that motor that directly drives the wheels, that's the one that's not directly connected to the engine, so you don't have any of the kind of transmission CVT situations going on. a lot of times when the engine's running, it's simply charging up the electric battery. However, the next trick in the Civic's book is that when you're up here at highway speeds, or kind of usually up above about 45 miles per hour or so, the engine can actually directly link up to the wheels. So now the hybrid system isn't actually doing anything, and the engine is powering the wheels in a one-to-one, not necessarily one-to-one, but with no transmission. It's engine to a gear to the wheels. So theoretically, there's not as much powertrain loss when you're not dealing with a transmission. So, in other words, theoretically, this should be a little bit more efficient on the highway than competitive hybrid vehicles. But we're also seeing EPA numbers that are only about 45, so I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what we get on this test. Speedometer does seem pretty accurate though, so we're going to have to bounce between 71 and maybe even 72 depending on traffic throughout the night to get that roughly 70 mile per hour average. And a little noisy in here. I can't help but wonder if the sedan would be a little bit quieter. This is a loud section of highway though, so we'll see how it sounds throughout the rest. I do know if you open the sunroof shade, it's even louder. Yeah, we do have a decent active lane keeping functionality, so I'm looking forward to using that throughout the drive. We've got a Pacifica in front of us with no lights on, that's good. Okay, well I'm going to continue on with the test out this 8-speaker sound system with some members-only tracks, and we'll catch up with you at the end. In the meantime, enjoy this time-lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end of the highway fuel economy test here in the Honda Civic hybrid hatchback. A little bit lower than I was hoping for. We're looking at 41.1 MPG according to the vehicle's readout right now. I'm not going to go too heavily in depth to my analysis on if we should be satisfied with that number or not, because we're going to get it back to the pump and get a proper readout from the pump and crunch our numbers that way and everything. But all I know is it's still a far cry from our best performer ever in the Volkswagen Jetta. What else? It's fine in here. The seat comfort's adequate. I have adjusted it a little bit kind of near the end of the drive, starting to shake up a little bit. Road noise, ride, both adequate. The best thing the Honda Civic does is be satisfying to drive and then satisfying to use. And it's not as satisfying to cruise, if you will. But the sound system is also fine. And I don't know, everything's coming together to just be fine, isn't it? Fine fuel economy, fine sound system, fine ride, noise. It's a Civic. Anything else? I mean, tack shot, here you are. No tachometer to see here, right lane hog, simply a power meter. When the engine is locked up and it's direct driving, then it runs at about 25%. And then when it's just running on the hybrid or the battery alone, then it kind of differs from there and can go all the way down to just a little bit of percentage and then all the way up, theoretically. So, I'm going to get it back to the pump, top it off, and then catch up with you in the daylight to crunch our numbers. Wrapped up here the next morning, and last night we put in a total of 2.605 gallons back into the Civic. So we're looking at 100.3 miles traveled divided by 2.605 gallons. Ooh, that doesn't seem right. Did we... 30, rounding up to 39 miles per gallon? That's the same figure as we got from the last Civic hatchback without the hybrid, which I guess might kind of make sense. I don't know, though, because the vehicle was reading out 41. EPA is 45. We're going to do this. We're going to split the difference. You all saw the calculation here, but I'm taking executive action. Call me biased, I don't care what. But I'm going to split the difference between the pump readout and the vehicle's readout, because pump readouts aren't always... It's not an exact science. It's not necessarily the best possible way to calculate, but it is another data point. So we're going right here in the middle. 40 miles per gallon for the Civic hybrid hatchback, which is not fantastic, but is also not too surprising considering the fact that when you're just cruising steady state at higher speeds, hybrids really don't have that much advantage. Now, oftentimes hybrid vehicles are using Atkinson cycle motors as opposed to Otto cycles, and that can make them a little bit more fuel efficient in general, but that's not the hybrid aspect helping them out. That's just using a more fuel efficient combustion process. So the fact that we're kind of right in line with the non-hybrid Civics for rolling on the highway, that's not too surprising for me. And you got to remember, we're hauling around a few hundred extra pounds with the hybrid version as opposed to the just normal gas one. So yes, you're going to see a lot better fuel economy around town, but if you do a ton of highway driving, the hybrid might not necessarily be the way to go for you. That being said, we've got a 12.4 gallon fuel tank in here, so 12.4 gallons times 40 miles per gallon, giving you a very healthy 490 miles of highway cruising range here in the Civic Hatch Hybrid. So like I said, if you're a highway mile muncher, you might want to consider which powertrain is best for you. It might be better to save a little money, save a little weight, and get the standard one. However, the smoothness and the power and the extra city fuel economy of the hybrid make it worth it to me in order to, as opposed to the non-hybrid version of the car. But something to consider, and something also to consider, if you just want to get a Civic Si, if you're going to be doing a lot of hybrid driving, that car got pretty good fuel economy results in our testing as well. However, looking at some of our previous results, the Jetta still remains supreme. No hybrid or anything, just a real small turbocharged motor clugging away there on the highway. Got about 50 MPG. The Prius got 45 in our testing, so a little bit better than this, but still not really that meaningful in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, still pretty decent numbers. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Civic, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.